Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Health In Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. I'm your host, Debby Bruck, founder of Homeopathy World Community, a social network for professional homeopaths. And we have today our guest, Erica Perlow, and she is a super woman, in my opinion, a multi-talented individual, a friend. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more that she has 26 years of experience helping to develop and manage local, regional, and national businesses. She is a lawyer, an activist, a scientist, and has done a little bit of everything, it sounds like. She's created new businesses and helped them get off the ground. She is a trained facilitator and a community organizer. She is an editor, a professional fundraiser, a public speaker, a media relations person, and has sat on the boards of several organizations. She is the co-chair of the Chatham County Bullying Task Force. We're going to meet Erica Perlow. And first I want to say thank you to Amnon, our producer, and Nissan Communications, the place to learn about your computer and how to keep it safe from spamming and bullying. That's our topic today. Hi, Erica.
Hello.
Hello there from across the county.
Hi.
So today we're going to be talking about this issue of bullying. I think it is in the news. We're hearing many, many stories. We see many videos of individuals who are speaking out, telling their story. I found out, Erica, that there on Facebook is a website called Stop Bullying. Speak Up on Facebook. It has over 1,043,000 likes and over 17,000 people are talking every day about this issue. So we're going to get right into it, and we're going to learn first the definition and then your story.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Not because of the topic in particular, but just thank you for inviting me. And I am happy to talk about the topic in that there is hope for those of us out there who have been bullied or are being bullied, or those of you out there, whether it be in your school or in your home or in your workplace. We're probably going to focus mostly on the schools today, but let me tell you what the definition of bullying is, because when I speak to different groups about the topic, what I typically do is at the beginning I'll say, okay, everybody here in the room, please raise your hand if you think that you've been a bully. And of course, hardly anybody raises their hand. And then I say, and raise your hand if you have been bullied. And then, maybe I would say 50, 60%. And these are usually to adults, or I do obviously school groups too. And then I read the definition and ask people to raise their hands, and it's a whole different story. Most people don't understand what it is, what it means, what it involves. So it's an act of aggression. It can be, and that can take many forms. It can be as overt as physical violence, or it can be as covert, more typically. We call this type of bullying relational aggression, as looks, gestures, threats. Today in the cyber world, IMs or messages, cyber texts, remarks, rumors. It can be harassment, and it can be social exclusion or shunning. So that's the definition. And when, it's put in that perspective, I think people really realize this is a vast problem. And it's very important that we put an accurate name and face to it. And that will be the only way that we can really come up with corrective solutions.
Right. It sounds like it encompasses quite a bit, whatever a person is sensitive to, whether it is physical or verbal or shunning, as you say, which is being ostracized. Those are the three main groupings that I understand encompasses bullying. And it can happen anywhere.
Right. And of course, now we have this whole new dimension that didn't exist when you and I were growing up of cyberbullying.
Absolutely. And this is another form, probably even for employees, coworkers in the workplace. You said we're going to focus on school and kids. They are connected all the time by their mobile devices, by their computer. They are linked in that way, and so they could be harassed easily with constant messages.
Right. Well, and now it only takes a second, as opposed to in the past, before we had cyberbullying, a person at least had an opportunity that is a bully to step back even for a few moments and think about it, or be impacted by someone else trying to impact them. But now all you have to do is push a button and it's gone. It's too late.
Plus the fact that it's online and you're not looking at the person or touching the person, with a handshake or a hug. There's that separation, which kind of makes you anonymous to having to face a repercussion of how a person's going to respond.
Right, very impersonal.
So tell us you've given us the definition. What actually happened to you, your family, that you had to take action?
My daughter, who's now almost 15, who is a very beautiful person inside and out, I love her very much, basically experienced hellish bullying in middle school. Didn't really see it coming. She had a lot of friends. She was the type of girl that, although she had, of course, her closest friends, she was sort of nice to everybody. And honestly, if she wasn't, interested in you or whatever, she wouldn't be mean to you. Whatever, there just might not be interaction. But a very loving, compassionate person. But she's also very bright. She's also very confident. And what we're finding now in the bullying world, so to speak, is the face has changed a little bit of who the targets have become now. Mm-hmm. So I think it used to be in our generation, Deb, that target of bullying, if we can use a pretend spectrum from 1 to 10, if number 1 was the kid who, had a lot of problems at home, who perhaps couldn't keep up in school, had physical inadequacies, whatever it was, not an athlete, perhaps. That was more of a typical target and continues to be.
So someone who appears maybe weak or shy or inadequate in some way, it doesn't fit into the group.
Right. And now it's gone all the way to the other side of the spectrum, to the kids like my daughter who are bright, very bright and confident. And what I think has happened is the bullies see someone like my daughter as a threat because she challenges how they feel about themselves just by being her. She's in a class and she's raising her hand, and she's being smart, she's being involved, but they don't like it because, maybe they either don't know how to be or they don't want to be, or worse, from their perspective, they don't think it's cool, especially for a girl to assert her intelligence. So she got targeted by, fairly typically, by 2 of her, who were her best friends the prior year, one who had been a best friend for many years, and quotes a boyfriend that had broken up with her. But these 3 kids really tortured her. So this was the relational aggressional stuff. It wasn't physical, which, in itself is horrific, but the relational stuff is ongoing. It is, it never goes away. It's in the halls, it's in the classes, it's in the lockers, it's in the cafeteria, it's in the gym class. Wherever my daughter was, and these kids were, they were tormenting her, whether it was verbally, whether it was laughing at her, keeping her away from them. Remember, these were kids that used to be her friends, so they were shunning her. They would walk up to her and say mean things to her. They were spreading rumors, gossiping, all that.
That's very, very hard.
It's debilitating.
And unless you have somebody there supporting you, you really can go downhill quickly.
Well, and she did, but she's also tough stuff internally. She has a lot of love coming from her home and her parents, so she is very well grounded, which I'm grateful for. But it just proves that you can be strong as nails, but if somebody is gonna torment you on a regular basis, you're gonna break at some point, whatever that means for you. So I ended up several things. One is she would have to come home from school, and I would debrief with her literally, like half-hour to 2-hour conversations about what happened that day, so I could help her vent, feel more hopeful, and then she could do her homework. But there was no way she could get to her homework before that because she was in pain.
So you don't, she wasn't physically being abused. It was all taunting. Every place that she would be, it would be in her face.
Unfortunately, these kids were in every single one of her classes, which was horrible. So she did find support through other friends, but still, even with that, it's not enough. I went to school and I met with every single one of her teachers. I went to school and I met with the assistant principal, the principal, and the guidance counselor. And I said, this has to stop. I don't care what it takes. But this has to stop. And obviously something is terribly wrong if these kids are able to do this. I'm sure my daughter's not the only one. And what kind of program do you have in place?
Can I interrupt you for a moment? I want to know how you found out. Did she come home and confide in you? Did she, every day, or how long did this taunting go on before you actually put your foot down?
That's a great question, and I have a little bit of regret about that.
Okay.
She was in 6th grade. Well, let me think out loud. She was in 7th grade when it started. And at first she said, Mom, I want to try to handle this myself.
Yes.
And you have to draw these fine boundary lines with your kid where, when they're trying to be independent and strong, and when, of course, you have to step in. And it's dance that we have to learn. It's a gift. To learn to dance well. But anyway, I gave her a couple months to try to deal with it herself, and I feel like it was too long. Looking back, I wouldn't let that happen again, ever. But I feel like I should have stepped in after a couple of weeks. So what ended up happening was the teachers were now on red alert. They were educated about what was going on because a lot of relational aggression stuff can be well hidden, quotes, well hidden, if a teacher is not taught to look for the, obvious things. I think they're obvious. And they're so preoccupied with getting the lesson across that a lot of times they're not looking for social cues. And then we started a committee at school with parents, teachers, students, and administration. And then also on the PTA, we started a committee both to prevent bullying through education. After that, and talking through other parents, I learned and realized that we didn't have a, across-the-board program across the county, which was very shocking to me. And I was learning that bullying was handled differently in every school. And I thought that was insane. So that meant that the consequences that could happen to a kid at my daughter's school would be totally different somewhere else. And I didn't think this was right. Aside from the fact that I didn't even know, and the county couldn't account for, how exactly people had a program in place at each of the schools. So my daughter and I and a couple other parents and students went to a Board of Education meeting. We spoke probably in front of 500 people. They were not there for the bullying piece, but we were glad that they were there. And my daughter did a beautiful job of speaking off the cuff about her personal experience. I spoke about what I just told you. And I said, look, I'm not here as much as I am to complain as I am to say I am offering myself to you and my family to help you come up with real solutions because there's an obvious problem. And within an hour of talking, the superintendent had sent a note over to me saying, I'd like to meet in my office this week. So I can say more, but I don't know if you want me to stop right now.
Whatever you think would be helpful to the audience, whether you're a parent or a teen, a student, or in the workplace and have trouble, I think all of this information is going to be important to basically have someone who is knowledgeable, contact other people. Basically, the steps that you're taking is you hear about the incident, you know somebody's being hurt, they need support, so you have to gather with other people to create a team of other interested parties who want to correct the situation. So
Right.
this is what you're telling us.
Right, right. And the truth is, this kind of process that we did, and I will explain more, is pretty duplicatable. I mean, I did that purposely. I mean, I've been talking to people in several other counties here in North Carolina who want to use our model, and it's something that could be used on any level. So after I met with the superintendent, with the other co-chair of the committee, another parent, and he brought in his assistant superintendent, a wonderful woman. And he brought in a gentleman who oversees bullying education and prevention for Chatham County, a great guy. But, you know, like everything else, what we learned is they just don't have enough resources, person power, or money to do the kind of educating that needed to be happening. So they were doing some, but it obviously wasn't enough. I think they embraced us, to say the least, with open arms, because they saw that our intentions were good. And I had a clear plan, and here's what it was. That is that I thought we should create this task force of parents, students, teachers, and administration. I had, myself and the co-chair had already talked about potential topics to hold 5 meetings and talk about these 5 different topics related to bullying, education, and prevention. For example, relational aggression, physical aggression, like we've talked about, or cyberbullying. So what we did was they absolutely 100% loved our ideas. So the superintendent sent an email out to all the principals and to the PTA presidents saying we're going to have 5 meetings over the next 2 months. We're inviting representatives from all 17 schools in the county, parent, student, teacher, and admin, to come to these meetings. The meetings were fantastic. They were an unbelievable growing experience, I think, for everybody who went. We had about 100 participants at the 5 meetings. And what we did was we broke out into groups, and we had a trained facilitator in each group. I was with the students, who I adore. I'm sort of like the fun mom, and I'm so happy to be that. And we focused on a problem a night. So, for example, in the cyberbullying, the kids would identify, we had easel boards, and the kids would identify what the problems were associated with cyberbullying. And then we took about 20 to 30 minutes to do that, and the last 30 minutes, for each one of the problems listed, they had to also list potential solutions.
So let me refresh that. So you're saying that you present the information to students, to kids, and that they are the ones that are going to come up with solutions because they're the ones that know it by heart, they're involved with it, and perhaps innately they can find within themselves ways that they might change their behavior once, what would prompt them to change their behavior if they're a bully? Is that kind of what's happening?
Let's step back. So I didn't mean to simplify it, but we broke out into each one of the entities. So I facilitated a student group, but someone else facilitated a parent group, a teacher group, and an administrative group.
Thank you.
All did the same thing. We all listed problems and solutions from the team's perspective. And of course, what the students might have put as problems or solutions might have been a little different than what the parents might have put. But the beautiful thing was that we were all talking. So after that hour, the meetings were 2 hours, we would all get back together in a large group, and each group would get about 10 minutes to present in short form what it was they came up with. And I'm telling you, there were tears. It was very emotional for a lot of people. Parents would stand up and say, I haven't had this kind of conversation with my kid. I haven't had this kind of conversation with my kid's teacher. Lots of these relationships are typically combative between the 4 groups. But in this type of environment, it was beautiful.
So you're really bringing people together to speak to it is conflict resolution, basically. They're learning these techniques.
Right. So to see, especially for me, to see these kids, and we had reps from elementary, middle school, and high school there, the youngest age being 5th grade. Most of the kids came that were bullied. We did have a couple of bullies, or kids that were there as bullies to come try to learn. But just to see these kids go from, it was like a metamorphosis within an hour, to go from these sort of, for the most part, shy, quiet, a little unfamiliar with this sort of environment and setting, to, at the end of the evening, all of them standing up in front of this whole group of adults as a group and sharing what they feel, what they've experienced, and what they think needs to be done. That is, what they think every person in that room ought to be doing that's a grown-up. It was very, very powerful. And then again, every committee had the opportunity to do that.
We have somebody in the chat room. Do you want me to interrupt? Okay. Claudia is asking, how about when the bullies do it outside of the school grounds? They follow the kids. Her son and his friend had this problem and nothing was done. We told the school and the school community police officer, and they only talked with the kids. It went on for a long time, and there's still fear. So, yeah. And Yvonne says bullying is everywhere. It's true.
You're right, Yvonne. Bullying is everywhere. Every community is different, and every school is different. I'm sorry for whatever pain your child went through or is going through. I can't stand any of it. I would say be a strong advocate. That's what I feel like my job is as a parent, is to be a strong advocate for my child, and nothing is going to stop me. So if you're not getting results at some level at the school, then go up. I went to the Board of Education and to the task force. And it's not even so much that I went in angry, although they knew I was angry. I mean, they knew my daughter was hurt. But I went in saying, look, this is what is happening. I didn't say you should be ashamed. I said, this is really something we need to come up with a solution for. You know what I mean? Sort of how we present ourselves is very important too. And just keep going. Keep going. And if you have to form a task force or a group, I think that's very important. It's much easier than doing it on your own.
Absolutely. I think that is a key factor, that many parents have to come together. And what you talked about, that group and how you had the communication and conflict resolution, I feel as if I'm hearing that all of these people who were involved, whether they were bullied or bullies, became a new social organization, a new social group with common ground. And that, I think, is part of the bullying aspect itself, being ostracized or outcast. The fact that they then became a brand new organization unto themselves gave them strength and power to resolve these problems.
Absolutely. That's, I remember seeing some of the Dateline shows about bullying, and they featured some of the families who had fought for their children. And I was sort of quivering in my boots about, well, I guess both the strength, of the individuals who were trying to tackle this issue, but it seemed like most of them were on their own. And, I do have a community organizing background. I'm blessed in that way. I don't ever advocate for people to sort of take on a war by themselves.
Absolutely.
I think that you really have to bring in other entities, other parents, and listen, we had buy-in from every level. We had buy-in from teachers. When I went to talk to my kids' teachers, not everybody was that emotional, reacted the same, but I had one teacher out of the four that stood up, started pacing the room back and forth, while I was, talking about what happened to my daughter. And she said, Erica, we have lost it. This woman won Teacher of the Year the prior year, by the way. She's fantastic. And she said, we're in the classroom to teach our kids about, doing well in these tests, but we have forgot about civility. And that's part of our role, too, is to teach children how to be good citizens. And, of course, that's the parents' job as well. So you just find people who will buy in. Forget about the naysayers. Keep going.
Well, I have two different topics to talk about. One, I want to first learn about how you've identified the problems, and then just talk about your 35-page report and moving forward with the solutions. Sure.
That sounds great. Well, we basically, the co-chair of my committee, Cindy Ledestro, wonderful parent and professional, also has spent a lot of time, lots of time the last year and a half with this task force, and she's sort of the research arm. She is the research queen. I do more of the facilitating, organizing, things like that. Anyway, through her research and, along with the county person who oversees bullying, we would have conversations about what seems to be the most prevalent topics, and we came up with the common 5. So we had 5 of the same structured meetings on each of the different topics, and then at the end of that 2-month period, Cindy, George, and I put together, it's about a 35-page report. I really wanted to honor the process that the participants went through, so it's not so much an academic-looking typical document. It certainly is academic in its own right, but it's more an outline of all the steps that we went through to come to this place, what happened at the meetings, how it was done, all the language that people used to identify the problems and the solutions. If the kids used certain language, I kept that language in. And then, we had the whole list of solutions. And then the last half of the report, Cindy identified a lot of definitions of different terms related to bullying, other issues, sort of like fact sheets about bullying, and then national organizations about bullying. That report was sent to the principal in all the schools. What we realized was it's a long one. We didn't really think everybody was going to read it. So from that, the steering committee of our task force synthesized it, and we have synthesized it about 10 times in the last 6 months. So now that it's about a very small font, 3-page list of what came out of those recommendations. And specifically, we have the recommendation listed, we have action steps listed, we have the time frame in which these things have to be done, who's responsible for overseeing them. And that's really what is a very important step, is you can't give somebody a report and say, use it. That's not going to happen. And
it is available. People, for administrators, parents, students, it is available to view and learn from.
Yeah, you go to, if anybody wants to see it, please go to, just Google Chatham County, North Carolina schools. You will end up at the school website. Go to student services, and you will see a bullying section, and all the information that we have used in our committee is posted there. This report is there. The recs and action steps are there. So I welcome you to embrace them and use them.
You've done all the groundwork for other people to build upon. That's wonderful.
We've done some of the groundwork. We took some from others, too.
Okay. I wanted to ask a little bit about some particulars, because it's very broad issue. So in schools, you mentioned surveillance cameras, right? And just a couple bullet points about what you think, what was implemented that really has made a difference.
What I'll do is I'll tell you sort of the 5 categories that came out of the recommendations, okay? The main categories. And from those main categories, we have specific strategies and action steps that have to be put in place. So the 5 main categories are monitoring, that is providing systematic oversight of bullying prevention efforts. You have to have, you certainly have to have data, so surveys are important of every one of the entities, parents, teachers, students, and administration. And there are specific action steps related to that recommendation. The area of the environment, that is providing a safe environment for learning free of bullying. So that's where, for example, surveillance cameras come in, the physical environment. Again, we have a lot of action steps for each, so I don't want to overdo it. But another focus area was consequences and restorative actions. So making sure that the consequences that a bully incurs is the same in all 17 of our schools, and we specify different examples and action steps. Another thing is education, which of course is a huge, huge piece of this. That's why I started this meeting today with the definition. We actually are providing principals with fact sheets on a monthly basis. We actually have a newsletter now But we provide them with all different things that they can educate their staff and their students and the PTA presidents, their parents with. And then lastly, a communication focus area. That really focuses mostly on the surveys for every entity, honestly, that is parent, teacher, students, and administration, so that we do have data in place at the end of the year. We have something to analyze with, our results with. And it goes on, but those are the 5 main focus areas. The beauty of it is 6 months after we had that first meeting in April, our team, with the help, of Mr. Logan, our incredible superintendent, got all this information into 17 schools. And it was required these action steps were required to begin to be in place within 2 months. So that was January of last year. And it's happening. I mean, it's really happening. And
what's amazing is the timeline and how quickly you were able to implement the program. And then you told me the other day a little bit about the response of the students and the kids who were involved with this and saw changes. What would you say are some of the reactions?
All positive. I mean, the meetings themselves, like I said, provided a forum for kids who never felt safe before to express themselves, in a whole real way, emotionally. It was so necessary for them. And definitely, I think, as you said before, Deb, knowing that there was a group in the county that was having effect in their school, creating groups in their schools, became easier to do. We have a steering committee of about 10 people. We have 3 students on the steering committee. And one high school kid who was tormented, a big guy who was tormented, big, beautiful guy, I might add, who was tormented throughout high school, middle school too, just started a student group and is having great success getting it off the ground in his high school. He goes to, he and his principal is an incredible man. They work together a lot. And he goes to the monthly teacher meetings and speaks at the teacher, admin meetings about what his experiences have been like that month. So it's very real and visceral. It's not just an intellectual process. My daughter's life has changed. I would say within a couple months of participating in this, she really found a strength, I think, that she was trying to find, and being able to communicate with lots of other kids and helping them be strong helped her be stronger. And we, again, did get groups put in place at her school. I mean, it goes on and on like that. It's wonderful.
Yes, it sounds marvelous. And it also sounds as if it's given many students and young people a purpose in life, meaning, and leadership position, and that strength that you said. One of the things that I want to talk about today is something that Yvonne in the chat is mentioning, and that is homeopathy for these kids and the parents, the families, for the bullies and the bullied, both ends, for the weak and for the strong, for those who are the victim, the aggressor. And both sides of that within each of us, we can harbor both sides. We can feel as growing up, and one of the things that I've read in a number of the blog pages there is it begins in the home. That, and you told me this as well, that when you're growing up and you're bullied in the home by either siblings or parents, which is being dominating you, then you respond in a certain protective manner to shield yourself from hurt, whether physically, verbally, or being an outcast, being the black sheep in your family. All of those ways that you don't realize the dynamics are going on. Do you want to speak a little bit about that, and then maybe I'll say something about homeopathy?
Sure. Look, I'm a parent of an almost 15-year-old beautiful girl, and she, just being her mother has been honestly the biggest honor of my life. But she has taught me so much just by being her about myself. And I will say, sometimes what I have seen, I'm being honest about myself, has not always been pleasant. I see myself, perhaps getting angry at silly things, like perhaps my parents might have done. Um, and I'm a hardworking person, personally and professionally, but personally, I'm speaking of, where I really do try to look at my own stuff a lot. And I think that we would all be better people, all of us. I don't care what position we play in life, whether a parent, teacher, administrative person, student, or none of these categories, if we would just have a serious look at who we are, figure out what it is that is making us unhappy or angry in life, and then take that information and try to deal with it in a positive way. And that to me means, it's for some people, it means getting help, figuring out how to deal with those issues. Some people need to get help to do that. Some people need to find other ways to channel, angry energy. Maybe going to the gym, but having awareness is a first step. And then not projecting your own stuff onto your children. I have a friend who, gave me an example once of a husband or a wife comes home from work. She's frustrated from her work day. She or he says something reactive to the other. In turn, that person says something reactive to the child, and that child kicks the dog. It's like a common scenario that can easily happen, but we really have to get a grip, because our culture, I think, it's evident now that we have an immense amount of bullying. And I'm sure that much or most of it has always been there, and we used to sweep it under the rug, and now, thank God, we've changed enough so that we don't want to do that anymore as much. But bottom line is, we really need to take a look at who we are as an individual and start in our own home to being the best that we can be.
Yes, I agree 100% that it does begin with us. Everything begins with you. That is really the message. And in the chat, Claudia is putting up another aspect that is kind of frightening, because today out there are people can get a hold of weapons. I don't know whether it's knives or guns or whatever it is, but creating such tremendous terror and fear in a human being because they're finding other people who are threatening with these kinds of violent weapons. What do you say to that? Have you come across anything of that nature?
Well, I can only speak about my limited experience with schools, but there are schools now in the country that have metal detectors that kids have to go through when they walk through the front door. I don't know of any in Chatham County, where I am in North Carolina, but it could happen. I know that these schools do exist from other friends of mine, and that's a very sad statement all in itself. Something else new, though, that makes me slightly more hopeful, is I know when I was growing up, we didn't have a police officer that was assigned to our school and was there 24/7. Well, I shouldn't say 24/7, but the whole school day. Now, I would think it's every school in the country. I know it's certainly in our state. There's what's called a school resource officer, who is a police officer whose full-time job is to be present and available at the school that they are assigned to. Now, that's a new thing, and I think it's fantastic, because they usually teach a class related to different things, including bullying prevention, gang resistance, drug resistance. And my daughter and I befriended one of the SROs in her middle school, just a fantastic guy. So,
I think she's talking about something that's going on outside of the school grounds, which makes it much more difficult. So maybe she needs to go to county or whatever, where I think she's in the UK. So she has to go to people in authority. Does that sound right?
If she's talking about something outside of the school, she has to go to the police.
Okay. Yeah. So now I wanted to just talk a little bit more about this home environment And the fact that homeopathy does have many, many homeopathic remedy resources for children, for parents, for siblings, because it gets to the essence of the root cause of what's going on in the home, so that it will be a catalyst for change, initiate change. Of course, it means that you have to be aware of homeopathy. You have to take the step to go to a homeopath and find out what this can do for you. There are many remedies that go to the root cause of anger within yourself, or feeling that you have a split in yourself. We've talked in the past about the snake remedies, which can be aggressive or slink away. We've talked, I don't know whether we've talked about a remedy called anacardium, which is also a very powerful remedy for people who have been extremely humiliated. And a lot of times these kids, or you as an adult, can be extremely humiliated by the things that people say behind your back or to your face, and you just feel worthless. And that's when these kids start cutting. And what you have mentioned, and I've seen on many of these videos, the kids and the families continually move to new homes, to new schools, to try and get a fresh start, to try and see if that will help them create a new group of friends and social network. So there are many things that people do, and one of those things is homeopathy. The thing about homeopathy is it can support you through the growth process and the coping process. However, if you're maintaining what's called an obstacle to cure, if your parent is an alcoholic and comes home abused, if your parent is a workaholic and as soon as they walk in the door, they're bringing all their workload in with them, and they're laying it on they're projecting it onto their kids, like you say. If somebody feels in some way within them that they project it onto other people, homeopathy can help. And it needs to probably be done with an entire family, the scope of all the people in the dynamic relationship, in order to see progress happen. And it can happen very quickly. So I just wanted to put that out. So do you want to talk a little bit more about the family dynamics and what you've learned from your experience, or what the kids have brought back to you?
I have to think about that.
I know I probably asked a question maybe that other people didn't ask you. Yvonne is saying that homeopathy is holistic healing, where fear is addressed, because if it's left untreated or suppressed, it will manifest into other illnesses. That is absolutely correct. So if you have these mental emotional problems, you're going to start to see kids feeling, oh, I have a stomach ache, or I have a migraine, I have a headache, and then they can't go to school because they don't want to be in the environment where they're threatened, where they're not supported, secure, safety, or protected. Therefore, we're going to see physical signs and symptoms, and then as it goes on in years, it will turn into some type of pathology, whether IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or these migraines, which are debilitating, backaches, no matter what it is, even tumors, it can come out as a growth, depending on how you as an individual have hereditary background. So actually, Erica, what we're thinking is, with homeopathy, we can stop the progress of the behavior that's coming down from families. So if great-grandparents and grandparents treated such and such this way, and you're modeling your parents, and you just do it naturally because that's how you were raised. You hear your mother's voice or your father's voice within you speaking to your kids. We're going to stop it in its tracks with homeopathy. I gave you a lot to think about. So maybe what do you want to say to all of that?
Oh, I love that. I mean, I never put that together before, but I say any sort of remedy that can help move things along as quickly as possible
Yeah.
would be wonderful, because so many people are just suffering from this. And to go back to your question earlier about, what else do I want to say about in the home? Um, this is my personal philosophy. I'm just speaking as an individual and my life experience. I have had my own health issues that were, very serious, where I could have met my maker as a young person several times. And, I had my own childhood horrors happen to me. I knew when I became a parent that I was going to have my child's life be very different than the one that I experienced. Or I should say, she would not experience the same hardships that I did. And I would really try to prevent any hardships that I could from coming her way. That's not to say that, there aren't things that can be learned from hardships, but, I wanted her to really enjoy her childhood. And again, I am emphasizing that it's not an easy job to be a parent, because you have ultimate responsibility for another person's life. It's the most different thing that we can do. There's nothing else like it. But I feel like people are so stressed today, for many reasons in our environment and our culture, that people don't stop and be in awe of their children every day. Be honored that they get the gift to be a parent. There is no greater calling, in my opinion. And I've done a lot of great things professionally. I'm very proud of what I've done professionally, but I got to tell you, none of it mirrors the joy that I get when I see my daughter becoming a healthy, happy young woman. And I wish that for everybody. I'm asking parents and adults out there to stop and take time, figure out what's going on for them in their lives that may not be contributing positively to themselves and to their families, because, again, it starts in the home.
So what you're telling us is that as you were helping your own daughter to overcome these problems, that you had to look in the mirror and you had to deal with your own issues. And through that process, you saw her heal, and you also found yourself healing and being healthier. Yes?
Yes, and happier.
And happier. And we want to put out that love into the world. We want to be happy. And we know actually that there isn't a single human being on this planet that doesn't want to feel good about themselves, about what they're doing in the world, in their job, at school, to feel that they're accomplished and accomplishing something good. And this lifts our spirits. This enables us to smile at other people, to say good things about other people, to stop talking behind other people's backs and having that vitriol, having negative things to put out into the universe. But really, I know every time I speak to you, Erica, you're always saying lovey and dear and darling. And, it's like I am embraced in your love. And we need to do that for other people and to provide those. I'm thinking, who is the wonderful singer who did Wings? You know
Bette
who?
Midler?
Yeah, Bette Midler. Bette Midler. She, that can carry us. That we are the protectors of the children, and riding on our wings or using our arms like wings to cuddle and hold and protect our children. And when we do that, we feel good and they feel good, just so long as you're not smothering them, being overprotective, but that you are guiding them so that you can send them off when they're ready to leave the nest, that they can go off and fly on their own and feel that security that you have provided that groundwork and stability for them. So I hear that that's really what you've done for so many people in your county. And this resource is available to anybody who listens to the show, who hears it, who checks out the website. I will put that onto the announcement page for the show on Homeopathy World Community. And one thing that I forgot to do today at the beginning is to say that if anybody did want to call in, if you're in the United States, it's 919-518-9773, or on Skype, Computers 2K Voice. So if you have words of wisdom, comments for Erica, anything that you want to say about this issue, we're welcome to hear you. We have about 8 minutes left to the show, and I want to put out waves of awareness and good information. There are many, many resources for people who feel that they're in a bad situation. There are also many, many programs. I just saw Ellen DeGeneres is involved in a program. If you love her, and humor is one way that you can deflect things that are happening, because people love to laugh and to be happy that way. So that's one thing that you can do. And many people who have been abused in their lifetime have used humor as a spiritual awakening. We have a caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, this is Mark here in front of Peace.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I mean, I love the show. I mean, it's definitely important because I know my son and his best friend have had issues with bullies, and it's very concerning. And a lot of times, even though we did what we're supposed to do with the school, talking to the community officer at the school and so forth, but they didn't. All they did is they just talked to the kids, the bullies, and then the bullies are then careful to do things outside of school, out in the community, and the police in my city won't really do anything until they actually physically do harm. They can harass, they can threaten, but they don't really do anything. They more or less have to wait until they actually hurt one of the kids. And in fact, my son's best friend is afraid that he actually picks up, whether it be sticks, pieces of metal, whatever he can find, just to protect himself. And then when our upstairs neighbor, because they're friends with him as well, the same age, he's being bullied, and he's about to protect him as well. So it's just escalating. Now, he's not bullying himself, but because of his fear of the bullies, is a major concern, because I'm just seeing that a good possibility that something major is going to happen. And I don't want my son to be caught in the middle, because my son knows better. But he's with him a lot, so it's a major concern.
I don't know how much. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry for everyone involved, because it stinks. And I understand your frustration. And I would say for the first however many months I was communicating with her teachers and the principal and the school, whatever, I was so frustrated. I could have just screamed. So I understand your frustration and your fear. I don't know how much energy you have to put into this issue. This is your personal call. But
right. Well, that's where I definitely want to look at your website and get your information.
That's great, but please do. And what I was going to say is, try to find some other parents. Try to find allies, so you're not doing this alone. Find some other adults who feel like you, and then go talk to the superintendent or go talk to the chief of police in your town. But have it be a group of you. Let them know that there is a presence. It's not just you. It's not just one other parent. There is a group of you. I mean, right now our group is 150 strong. And it doesn't have to be 150 people. Start with 5. But start somewhere so that you're not alone, because everybody needs support in the process, including you.
I think what you're saying is bring it out in the open. Make it verbal. Make it that people can hear the problem and not push it under the rug. They need to know that it's going on before they're going to take action. So you might have gone one-on-one to an individual to ask for help, but more people have to learn about the problem. Is that correct, Erica?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's right to start one-on-one. That's sort of the normal chain of communication. I went to the teachers individually, etc. But when you find that that's not working, step it up. And that means then, try to figure out who to bring in, who of the people in your circle or your kid's circle can you bring in that might feel like you, and have a little meeting. And then, let it grow organically from there. But, there are a lot of resources to help you do that. It does take time and energy, though, so you have to want to commit yourself to it. It doesn't mean full time, but sometime. It's not going to go away, though, if you don't.
Right.
I hope that helps, Mark, and I'll get you the address for the resource so that you have something to present to the community.
Yes, Skype it to me. And also share with her my contact information as well to Erica.
Okay.
And maybe I can work with her as well and even have her on my show.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do that. So we have just a few minutes left. I would like to ask Erica if you have any parting words, and then I'll tell the folks what's coming up next week.
Trying to think. I probably said, most of what I want to say. It's a process. Like we were saying with Mark, you start out speaking individually with principals, with teachers, etc., with other kids. I mean, I think the thing that has been most effective is that we brought these different entities together and became a solid group. I guess the one last thing I might end with is, actually there are two things. It's just intuitively coming to me, and that is, one, I am learning to be a better listener in my life. And I mean that in every single way. I mean, trying to listen to myself more, my inner voice, trying to listen to my husband, trying to listen to my daughter, the people that I love, even people I may not love. I think that listening is one of the greatest things that we can do in this life, and really trying to hear. And the other thing is, we had talked before a little bit about putting positive energy out there. And I do think that's very important. But that begins also with you. So for me, that begins with me. And I work on it every day. Trying to get rid of some of the negative old tapes that might be in my head from my own childhood, and creating positive self-talk with myself. Very important. I can't emphasize enough how important that is to do every day with yourself, and then, with the ones that you love.
That's beautiful. It's basically love yourself. You have to learn to love yourself first, and then you have infinite love to send out to everybody else out there. And when people recognize that they're getting love, sometimes it's hard for people to be able to receive, but you have to keep doing that same thing. Give the love, and eventually it will spark something in them that they can receive it, hear it, change in some way. Thank you so much. Now, next week, we're going to have on the Health In Show. How do people get in touch with you, Erica, if they would like?
Oh, that'd be great. I am a health coach, actually, as well, amongst other things. So you can email me at gethealthy@mycoach, Erica, ERICA.com. So email, and that would be great.
Thank you. Yes, I did say you are multi-talented, beautiful singing voice, and many other things that we don't even know. So next week, we're going to have Garla Smith helping you to write your healthcare-focused resume. So it probably can go across all spectrums, no matter what field you're in. She is an expert at resume writing, whether you are just coming out of school, wanting to prepare, or you are already in the field, maybe want to change your what you're doing right now, your job, or just want to keep it up to date, she has the answers. It's going to be a fabulous show. On Wednesday, we're going to miss Dr. Adel but he will be back in the following Wednesday answering all of your health questions. And on Thursday, Alan Phillips will be talking about vaccinations and your rights on Blog Talk Radio, Thursday at noon. Amnon, you're a doll. We love you, and this show would not be possible without Nissan Communications. So tune in on Sunday. What is it, 9?
9
until you stop talking, but he has lots to say. So creating waves of awareness, we love you. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Sundays 9 a.m. to noon. Health In with Debby Bruck, Mondays 11 a.m. to noon. The Scope of Things with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 7 to 8 p.m. Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 8 to 9 p.m. Body Talk with Cindy Prince, first Tuesdays 8 to 9 p.m. Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, Wednesdays 8 to 9 p.m. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by thatvidblasterguy.com, carolinaapparel.com, and deltaforce.net.